Hey guys, welcome to my official video for determining the worst free-to-play game on Steam. Now keep in mind, before this video goes on, this is going to be kind of a lengthy introduction, so if you want to fast forward to here. Firstly, I want to start off by saying I don't think there are any other games that could be possible contenders. I chose games that not only disappointed me, but made me laugh uncontrollably hard. The games you are about to see aren't necessarily the worst, but one of them, out of all of them, is worse than the rest of them. And I've already taken the time to dive into each one. I've spent a considerable amount of time playing each one, just kind of getting more familiar and making sure that I don't miss anything I might want to talk about. Let it be known, I am not a game designer. I am merely another voice on the internet who gives his opinion in annoying or informative ways. However you look at it is not my business. All that matters is that you guys enjoy the content. And that being said, I hope you enjoyed the rest of this video. Let's dive together and look into what may be the worst free-to-play Steam game ever made. If you're like me, chances are you enjoy a good video game from time to time. Maybe something not too crazy, but fitting enough that you'd be able to relax and just enjoy yourself within the universe. Games like Dead Rising, Minecraft, Terraria, and others like them are a perfect fit for this category. However, sometimes in the middle of all that fun with the good stuff, we forget that if it weren't for the lesser known or played video games presented to us on such a large platform like Steam, we wouldn't have such marvelous gems as we do now. What I'm saying is, sometimes we enjoy the shit bits hidden behind the gems. Some of the worst games on Steam were already covered right here on the channel. However, as bad as they were in my opinion, they still brought a lot of laughs my way and made me feel some sort of empathy for the developers. Obviously, it's a lot of work to make a video game, let alone a functioning one. I lack the skills and knowledge to do so, but being an enthusiast like yourselves, I often like to share my opinions. The important thing to learn here is this: you won't please everyone, and that's okay. So long as you gave it your all and believe that you made a fine product, that's all that matters. Your game might suffer from ailments that the public will comment on, but that's life, and there's no preventing it. Alright, anyways, you get my point. Even the worst games I've played have gotten a chuckle out of me, though it didn't necessarily redeem the overall bad qualities. They still had some charm. What is it about a bad free-to-play game that makes life so much fun? I guess the best part is the fact that you can happily play a game that's not so talked about and you won't have to risk gambling your money away. You'll be able to comfortably explore the limits of what some might call a bad game without hating yourself afterwards. This begs the ultimate question for today's topic. What's the worst free-to-play Steam game? Lots of people have different variations of the word worst, so this is my interpretation. The worst free-to-play game on Steam of our choosing will be broken down with different questions that better identify what qualifies as bad. For example, some might say a game is bad just because it's a broken mess and doesn't offer anything to anyone outside of its small community. Others might say a game is bad when it feels unfinished, unfair, like they wasted their time and can't ever get it back. I won't be mentioning any big games like Apex or Destiny 2, just so you know. Those games have a large player base even today, so it's obvious how they stand in the market. It seems nowadays, especially, people are aiming more towards these types of games with their development teams, so I wanted to see what I could find, and boy, do I have some contenders. Zombie Carnage 2. In Zombie Carnage 2, I can only assume the goal was to make a massive multiplayer shooter in the style of Counter-Strike with multiple class selections, a leveling system, and tons of guns and gear to experiment with. You start off as a human, simply enough. You have a Prezet class with a powerful gun and your character runs fast as shit. At first glance, it's pandemonium. The goal is to survive against the infected, who are controlled by other players. If you've ever played the infected mode on Modern Warfare 3, it's basically the same thing here. The infected are tough sons of bitches. You can mag dump them until your gun's barrel turns to fucking magma and they'll still screw you up. You also have tools and traps that you can deploy to help delay the inevitable. I'm unsure if there are multiple maps or not, since I played like 4 games of this and the map didn't change once. However, there are plenty of hiding spots and tons of bugged out areas that you can milk until the game is over. If the humans survive, it's on to the next wave and a new player is randomly selected to become infected. To be honest with you, it's actually hilarious. The player speed is like if you gave a chimpanzee a box of sugar, so often you'll see the players constantly running back and forth, jumping perpetually, bumping into each other, just all-out chaos in general. The infected are even faster, with a mechanic that allows them to basically bunny hop indefinitely. Their health is so fucking high, you can cause so much damage to the survivors and you won't feel a thing they throw at you. Like here, I somehow killed this player player, but I wasn't even trying. Look at my face though, I genuinely loved playing this one. I'd definitely proudly claim it as funny bad. Laying down traps to slow the infected down is a pretty neat mechanic, but once you realize how pointless they are, it becomes a comedy show. Why have these super cool looking mines if they don't really trigger when they're supposed to? Playing as the infected is honestly a lot of fun. They all look like the generic zombies from an RTX version of Minecraft, only they wield a meat cleaver at all times. If you left click, it's a light attack, but right clicking causes a heavy attack that just eats the survivor's health away like a vampire. Plus, the infected are so unbelievably fast that it's just silly. You can't ignore those stupid fucking zombies. It was a lot of fun watching the ridiculousness unfold within this game. If you're a fan of fun multiplayer games that aren't meant to be taken seriously, you'll love this one. Get your buddies to torment themselves for a few minutes and you'll most likely end up having a good time. The game isn't even all that bad, it's just average. It's like the most average game ever, except when assassin mode kicks in. Now you're really fucked. J.A.W.S. The developers describe the content as follows: an RNG dynamic and strategic FPS. Test your mettle against endless waves of super soldiers. How long can you last? Its gameplay is so bizarre yet so simple, and there isn't much to do besides shoot the infinite enemies that come after you like stiff robots. You're given a handgun and an objective. Find the gas cans to restart the generator. Meanwhile, you have to also fend off waves of these enhanced robot-human hybrids apparently. These are the super soldiers? They all look the same. Why don't they have guns? Are we in a post-apocalyptic future? When they run, it almost looks like they're exercising. The only way they can attack you is if they get too close. They will start strangling you. Get your fucking hands off me, you cast iron saucepan. Your goal doesn't change. You have to search all around the map for the gas cans you need in order to start the generator. Only it's broken because I was but able to pick up just one gas can at a time. On top of that, I searched high and low for the generator, but I think it's just invisible at this point. I spent such an insane amount of time looking for the fucking thing until I remembered what I was playing and realized I didn't have to go through all this shit. I hate to admit it, but this one is a bit of a mix. At first, I was laughing at the cheesy style of its underdeveloped stages, the ridiculously mundane objective, and of course the weird bug I discovered where if you go out of bounds, you just straight up die. The game is basically giving you the biggest middle finger on earth. However, as you play it more and more, it gets really tiring and old. You'll chuckle a few times at the enemies, maybe gun them down for the sake of killing time, but it only makes you wish you were playing something less terrible. The environment has constant invisible walls that don't make sense, but then entirely forgets to put a boundary in segments that you need one in. The enemies don't change in variation, the generator is nowhere to be found, and the guns all feel the same. I only managed to find 2 of them, but the pistol was as strong as the assault rifle, so I don't think it really mattered. But the title doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why is it called J.A.W.S? It doesn't stand for anything, it doesn't represent an enemy's name or a new enemy type. It's just a generic title that probably sounded cool in the developer's head, but ultimately could have been a lot funnier if given proper attention. However, at least with this game, I can say they tried to make it look good. The next one on our list is a complete joke. Apocalypse 2.0 Edition. What? Apocalypse 2.0 Edition puts you in the shoes of an unnamed badass that wields a heavy gun with unlimited ammo and a frame rate of about 10. What the hell is this ass-plastered anal nugget? Is this even a video game? Here's the plot. You select a preset class with preset guns, you roam around this very tight corridor map that has more barriers and invisible walls than Fallout New Vegas, and you fight waves of zombies. Nothing more, nothing less. The guns all feel the same. Using the shotgun is literally no different than using the rifle. Where does this game take place? The pits of Tartarus? Or somewhere in Rock Bottom from SpongeBob? You also get an adrenaline mechanic. Ooh, fancy. I can slow down time for 5 seconds. What's the fucking point when the gunplay is actual trash? Your reticle is too small, and the sound effects suck gutter juice. There's not much to say. I might be dumping my ass all over it, but I gotta admire the fact that the game even exists. I'm sure whoever made it is proud of themselves, and hey, sometimes that's all that matters. Discrepant. With the little amount of time I had to play Discrepant, I was a bit confused at first by its mixed reviews. Usually a story-based single-player game is considered a commodity in the gaming community, but from what I understand about this one, it's just bad, plain and simple. Your character wakes up after being cryogenically frozen. You can look around the environment for useful items like health and other pointless nonsense that'll only serve to waste your time and effort. The objectives annoyingly cut into the gameplay often, giving you zero chance or drive to pursue further. The noise complaints in this fucking studio must have been insane because it's impossible to hear your own thoughts with all the nonsensical ruckus going on. Alarms, electrical wires, loud machine humming. This stuff works in Dead Space, sure, but not here. Also, I think I got caught in a bug or something where my stamina was infinitely depleted and wouldn't recharge. I only sprinted for 2 seconds and now suddenly I can't run anymore. My character won't shut the fuck up either. Sounds like he's gripping his meat stick. Anyway, not much else to say about this one. This was the first game on the list that I'd just given up on. It was full of too many ridiculous sounds and visuals. It gave me a headache. And the sound of the player breathing over and over again gets really frustrating. But believe it or not, there's something far worse than this. Sunrise Survival. This channel is no stranger to Stalker Anomaly. I've said it once and I'll continue to do so. It's my favorite free-to-play game of all time. It should come as no surprise that with a great video game comes a great series of waves full of knockoffs trying desperately to mimic the perfect formula from the past that Ancestor developers have long ago crafted. In other words, blatant carbon copies of the original but with way less redeeming qualities. Sunrise Survival claims to be an open-world survival looter shooter with enemy NPCs, mutants, and a dynamic roleplay system. I hate to pull the wool out from your tired eyes, but these are all incorrect. Sunrise Survival is an empty game with nothing to do. You can follow the boring, uninteresting questline if you want, I suppose, and perform some very basic customization for your character, but other than that, it offers nothing else in terms of redeeming quality. There are 0 enemies in the entire fucking thing. Sure, it's nifty that you can pick up items throughout the environment, but oh yeah, that's also in every other game. The text is molecular sized, the graphics aren't that great, and while I'm basically kicking the game as it begs and pleads on the ground, it's straight up not fun. I roamed endlessly around the game's empty terrain, searching heavily for something to attack. It was fruitless, as even the birds in this game didn't want to exist. However, the next ripoff is much of the same thing, but even worse if you can believe it. Source of Survival. Man, talk about a really ugly looking game. Source of Survival tries to aim for the forest approach. Your character is hilariously flung from his boat due to some unexplained explosion, and you wake up on a buggy beach with a headache that causes you to see at 9 frames a second. Besides the hilarity of your character's main jumping and sprinting animations, there's not much to say about Source of Survival. Who the hell am I supposed to be? Jake from the Neverland Pirates? He's gotten a lot bigger since I was a kid, I guess. This is supposed to be a zombie game, but the first and only zombie I killed was enough to make me sick. Chopping down trees looks stupid, and the poor optimization made me wince far too long, so I unfortunately didn't get to experience it in all of its glory. Anyways, moving on. Revelations 2012. Hey, you've played Left 4 Dead 2, right? Well, god damn it, what the fuck is wrong with you? You think you're special or something because you own one of the greatest multiplayer games to ever exist? Well, shame on you, says the developer of this game, Revelations 2012. While I'm sure they didn't actually say that, it's very clear that the devs of this madhouse just wanted to make the most ridiculous mod for Left 4 Dead but poured it into its own game. The plot is that 4 random strangers were teleported to this weird Mayan temple, and they're the only hope against stopping the rebirth of the Mayan army from taking over the world. With such an obscene plot, the gameplay isn't far off either. It feels like a fever dream to play this. Why are we killing Mayans? Why are the Mayans trying to take control of our world? Who are these idiots that are supposed to replace our heroes from the games we know and love? The gunplay is laughably confusing, with your ammo counter remaining at 0 but somehow still allowing you to shoot indefinitely. The enemies, while uniquely designed, are frustratingly difficult and swarm you in worse ways than the common infected do in Left 4 Dead. Hell, half the time they can't even make their mark. Look at this asshole. He's been throwing flaming spears at me and he keeps missing. Dumb fucking Mayan is about to get educated. The frame rate drops for no reason, the objectives are a little unclear, and the map's layout really isn't fun. There aren't branching multiple paths or any iconic special infected, it's just a copy-paste of Left 4 Dead, but only if they wiped their ass with it and tried to flush it. Either way, this one might be fun as a small joke to play on yourself, but seriously, just play the other one. Rifle Strike. Talk about a bad time. Rifle Strike was the first game on this list that I played with mostly negative reviews. That being said, it's obviously been a long time since anyone has played this gem. Remember old school Call of Duty? Well, fuck that. Now it's time for the rise of Rifle Strike, a game where you kill the same generic mobster over and over again with guns that feel like airsoft and broken controls that get you killed. Funny enough, the enemies speak in a different language, but they look like stunt doubles from the cast of The Sopranos. It's awful that the models don't match the voice. What's worse is the view model. Why is my gun placed in my armpit? And what's with this insane recoil? It's almost like this game was trying to make me fucking lose, and it worked multiple times. You can call in a support helicopter during the horde mode, but guess what? The goddamn thing can kill you if you're surrounded by zombies because apparently friendly fire's turned on. There's also a story mode in this one, and I'm quoting this because it's just a few lengthy, dull, and repetitive missions that attempt to follow a storyline of an agent named John Steve. Yeah, real creative name. You have to fight your way to the other side of the map to obtain the files, or this poorly cropped JPEG of a symbol for files, and then you have to run all the way back. Be careful though, a helicopter spawns here and it's able to shoot through buildings and explode shit right in your face, so being quick is essential here. There's also a really shitty sniper mission, but if you saw my gameplay of it, you'd know that by now. You're on the rooftop and the voiceover says you have to find and kill the target. However, what the game doesn't tell you is that it uses the exact same model for every single enemy, so there's no possible way of telling which one is the target. You could be up here for fucking weeks sniping at those piss ants, but sometimes your bullets either don't work or just disappear in midair. I made multiple shots that were right on my fucking dot and it miraculously missed way too many times. Overall, the game isn't even worth playing. It's not exactly fun bad, but it's still not nearly as bad as the next game. Lockdown. Whoever ate the disgusting shit left over from other free-to-play Steam games and planted their seed inside of this one deserves to rot for their crimes against humanity. I'm being a dick there, but in all seriousness, I found myself very disappointed with Lockdown. The premise is simple. You have one map and one map only. You're given a small list of objectives that you must complete in order to escape, and then you're on your own. You'll occasionally be attacked by feral zombies that roam around the environment silent as the night, and enemy AI players who are either brainless or spot-on accurate with every shot. There's no in between. You're given one model of a gun, and each new gun you collect shoots in some different type of way. The damage doesn't change, nor does the appearance of the gun itself, so it literally just feels like a Nerf gun or a Zorbies launcher. There's no variation to the appearance, and I hate that. The gun just looks and feels the same no matter what. Enemy footsteps are silent as all fucking hell. I started getting attacked by an enemy player and tried to hide in this house. Suddenly I started taking damage from behind. I quickly turned, but it was too late. These two cocksuckers slapped me to death and I had to restart. Great game design. I love enemies that don't make a noise when running full sprint towards me. Eventually, the game just broke my computer and made my recording destroy itself. The first time I could say a game was so bad that the PC itself wanted to stop playing. Death World. Much like Sunrise Survival, this appears to be yet another ambitious take on the open world survival genre, with a vast environment to explore and enemies to fill the gaps. Except, yeah. Guess what? It's another fucking empty sandbox. I guess I shouldn't complain. It's a free game. I didn't pay any money for it. I can't help but feel gypped anyways, though. Where are all of the enemies? You can pick up loot such as food, ammo, and drinks for your journey, but why? Our hunger and thirst aren't necessarily an issue when nothing could possibly attack us in this empty world. I searched for a good amount of time and I didn't find a single threat in the game besides gravity. Not that enemies would make it much better, the world feels too empty and lifeless on its own. Finding loot isn't really a necessity since you spawn back in the bunker every time you die and it respawns with food and water occasionally. The guns are also useless because, once again, you don't kill anything. You can build a campfire, I guess, but who the hell cares? Anyway, nobody really worried too much about the origin story of the Unreal Engine Android player model, so we'll just pretend this one didn't exist and keep going. Dirty Room. I was surprised with the comedic factor this game would bring to me with its silly text-to-speech, voice acting, and cheesy old-school graphics. I thought at first I would be very happy to dive deeper into what laid ahead in this game's so-called dirty room. Oh, the game's dirty alright, but the only thing that feels dirty after playing it is you, because you'll feel like you wasted your time. I mean, I don't know, if you got past the beginning segment, congratulations. You have way more patience than I do. You play as some guy going to visit his friend named Jason. When you arrive, the door shuts on you and your character says,
"Something wrong."
With that hilarious introduction out of the way, I'm ashamed to say it's the funniest part about the entire experience. Dirty Room attempts to be this poor man's version of Resident Evil 7, only made much worse, and the mechanics are frustrating to get used to. The stamina mechanic, I'm convinced, is just broken. If you run out, and you will very quickly, it takes a fucking century and a half to refill. And what's this? A puzzle? Great, well, I definitely wasn't smart enough to solve it, I suppose. I tried for 32 minutes to find the answer for the combination, but nothing worked. I didn't feel like looking it up either, so I just decided to move on. Something wrong with this game anyway. And last but not least, we have the final game. Hegis Grasp. Evil Resurrected. If If you ever wondered what it would be like if Wolfenstein in the Unity engine had a baby, then I guess this is right up your fucking alley. Hegis Grasp Evil Resurrected is a strange game that takes place in 1896. You play as a man who is traveling to a remote village to seek information about an unknown third party that may or may not be responsible for something macabre and dangerous. Jesus, I just described Resident Evil 4 with that. This game reminds me of that one, but not in any redeeming ways, unfortunately. The story definitely tries to hold the game up, but due to the poor design and oddly quiet dialogue from some of the characters, I couldn't take it seriously. The characters look hideous too. The mustache on Henry's face looks like he bought it out of a quarter machine. And as I stated, the voice acting isn't all that good either. Granted, I'm not a voice actor by any means, so I can appreciate the effort they went through, but I don't feel like these characters will be iconic in any way along our journey. Well anyways, the game starts and we can't go past the gate to Hegis yet. The game leads you on a wild goose chase to find the items you need in a specific order to be able to proceed. Much like the Resident Evil franchise, this is a very dialogue-heavy game with cheesy voice acting and an environment that's a joke to explore. It was hilarious to discover that apparently you can fail the game right off the bat by punching Jacob or his horse, or the captain. It doesn't do anything, but it's funny. Well anyway, we go to look for these houses, and not far off, we do end up finding a couple of them. You can find documents that shed more light behind a little bit of the story, but they're not important. Most of them just say stupid shit about old civilization or how they don't feel safe in the village. The only enemies I managed to encounter were bear traps, deer, and a fucking spider. A tiny little spider that was chomping on my fucking toes. Yeah, that's the only enemy I encountered. After trudging all the way across the map at a painfully slow pace, I found the key required to persevere. However, another bear trap surprised me while heading back to the house, and I died. I was far too frustrated to continue from where I last saved, and it felt like I was just wasting my time. It's obvious the devs were really trying to make this one work with what they had, and while I can appreciate the effort, it just falls flat in comparison to the other games, and it bored the shit out of me. The animations are buggy, the characters are silly, and the story is hard to understand, especially if you're genuinely interested in it. The fucking voice acting might as well be whispers due to the low volume, and the exploration is also non-existent, since there's a lot of unnecessary invisible walls and clunky environmental rocks and sticks that stop you dead in your tracks for no reason. Well, the easy part is over. I've officially reviewed all of the games I wanted to for this video, but now the hardest part comes into play. Which one is the worst? Keep in mind, these are the only games on Steam that I found with genuine reviews, a once existing fan base, no matter how big or small, and these were the only ones on the entire platform that were worth talking about. There are millions of free-to-play games in the world, especially for PC players, so one luxury we definitely get is the ability to play a really shitty game all for the sake of a joke. However, we are also cursed to forever inhabit games that no longer get touched due to their overall bad qualities. Pandemic Express was a game that almost made this list, but nobody plays it anymore, which didn't end up working out for me, so I had nothing further to discuss with it. Is it even fair to consider these games bad, all because they don't match the standards of other modern titles that require a legal tender purchase? If you ask me, a game is never free. Not of judgment, anyways. When you design something as huge or small as a video game, you're devoting the time and energy into designing something that multiple people will obviously have to test out for themselves, despite if it's free to play or requires money. A game is never free of judgment once it's been released to the public, and that's just the sick world we grew up with. So which one of these stinkers stinks the most? A lot of them have different varying mechanics that set them apart from each other, but I'm going to determine this final choice by breaking it down in a simpler method. Which game would I most likely play again the least? To be honest, they're all bad. Not a single one of these games brings anything new to the table besides maybe Zombie Carnage 2, but that's the only one where I had genuine fun because of the silliness. So I don't think that one deserves the title of the worst. Source of Survival is a buggy, broken mess, but Sunrise Survival isn't far off with its empty and pointless gameplay. Death World was the same fucking thing, just an open world nothing sandwich that I was forced to take a huge bite out of. However, I do think there may be one game out of all of these that takes the cake as the worst free-to-play game ever, especially on Steam. Unless someone finds something worse than this, I'm gonna stick with this opinion. Lockdown. Yeah, I'm sure you weren't expecting this, but hear me out. Lockdown was so fucking broken and glitchy for me, it was literally unplayable. The combat is god-awful, the zombies suck, and the enemy AI players can snipe you while you're moving around like a fucking drunken chimpanzee. Play it long enough and the game starts to implode on itself, disrupting your gameplay footage with unnecessary bugs and stutter lags. It gives you a chore list, but then refuses to elaborate on how to find the things you need or where to look. The UI looks stupid and generic, the graphics aren't very
very good, and the story is non-existent. You can also die very quickly if you're not paying attention, but it's not like it requires actual skill to stay alive. Just avoid everyone and everything and keep an eye on your back, and you'd think you'd be smooth sailing. The only place I want to sail after playing this shit is straight into the fucking sun. It's not a good game by any means, and believe it or not, this one was the game that upset me the most. Not Hegis, not Sunrise Survival, not Anomaly Zone, not even Death World. This was the worst free-to-play game I ever discovered. Again, this is all a matter of opinion. I wouldn't put it past me that more bad free-to-play games will emerge from the abyss of the Steam platform, but as of right now, this one has to be the worst I've ever tried. I mean, honestly, this is as basic and fucking copied and pasted as anything else I've played, only done 10 times worse due to the game's inconsistent gameplay. There you have it, guys and gals. That was my official review of the worst free-to-play Steam game I've ever tried. It wasn't an easy video by any means. I had to download all sorts of ridiculous shit onto my computer and try it out for your entertainment in order to get to the bottom of things. And now that I have, I feel a sense of relief. Again, I would hate to discourage anyone who is looking to make a game like any of the ones I've played today, but I urge you to never give up and pursue your goal of creating the next best thing. Sure, you might have a flop or two, but life is all about progression and change. We all go through it. Don't let one reviewer put a bad taste in your mouth, as even bad games like these can bring some sort of entertainment to you. Maybe they'll make you laugh, maybe they'll make you cry, who knows? All that matters is that you're having fun and doing what you love. Just don't be afraid of criticisms, no matter how harsh or light. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned, and next time we'll dive together into one of the biggest and most ambitious video games ever released, Metro Exodus. I've been beyond ready to talk about this game since I started the channel, and now it's finally time. See you guys soon. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to our channel, and thanks for checking out this video. Leave a like, comment, and since we're on the subject, enjoy yourself. Thanks for watching the content, folks.